Hi, my name is Alice Boot and I've just graduated from BA Fine Art. So behind me I have the piece Sweeping Fibre and the two drawings, Fibre Drawing II and Fibre Drawing III. My general practice is based around the use of recycled burlap coffee bags, which I then unpick thread by thread, and then I reweave the threads back into sculptural works. So Sweeping Fibre is comprised of a combination of unpicked bags and woven structures. So you can see as you walk around it, different woven pieces that are hidden amongst the fibres. I'm interested in the kind of interwoven relationship between myself and the materials that I handle. So often the laborious process of unpicking each thread means that there's quite an intimate relationship formed between my hands and the materials that I'm working with. And then when I bring other materials such as clay and found objects, which are really key to my general practice, that's when things start to get really interesting, because they're always kind of interacting, and often there's a lot of tension that builds between the interaction of different materials, and I have to navigate those and be almost a facilitator for that relationship, with also me kind of being a part of that general process of making. So I'd say that that's really key to my practice as well, is how these materials are all interacting with each other, and almost these alive creatures that are behaving a certain way, and I have to learn how their behaviours impact each other and how they might respond to me as well as another living creature. I grew up by the coast in East Sussex, and I spent my entire childhood going there with my family, and since coming to university for the past 4 years in Leeds, I haven't really had the same kind of environment as that. So every time I go home, I always go to the beach and I'm collecting rocks and sea glass and different objects and branches that I find while I'm there. And I'm also very aware of kind of the fibrous patterns on the seabed when the tides go out, and you can see where the water has been flowing and the kind of lines and natural fibres that come from that process as well. And that's kind of fed straight into my sculptural works and my drawings as well, where you can kind of follow the threads of each fibre as they kind of flow into each other, and that's very much taken from the same processes that are happening on coastal environments as well. I also use found objects, which are taken from the city streets of Leeds around Hyde Park area, but they also kind of represent this idea of getting caught in the nets that you find in the fishing harbours back in East Sussex, and also in places like Robin Hood's Bay and Whitby up here. So if you walk around the piece as well, you'll find different objects that have got caught in the nets, and it's as if they've sort of just been dragged out of the water and suspended and hung, and what's left in there is what's been taken from the seabed. Another key thing that I'm really influenced by that come from coastal environments are often the discarded and washed up fishing nets that are left after storms in particular, that I often find when I go home or when I go and visit the coastlines up in Yorkshire. After unpicking each thread from the recycled burlap bags, I then weave them back into structures which often depict the similar structures that I find in the discarded fishing nets. So in this piece for Sweeping Fibre, you'll find more of the objects that are caught and weighting the nets as if they have just been dragged out the ocean and left suspended and caught as a part of the overall piece. Yeah, a lot of the time my pieces are really instinctual and they're not planned at all. It's just sort of, I let the material lead the making process. So a lot of the time, if I'm trying to unpick a bag and the threads are getting knotted and caught up, I sort of know that that one particular bag doesn't really want to be unpicked in the way that I normally would for others. So I have to leave that bag to just do what it wants to do. And then I move on and do something else, and it all kind of comes together eventually in a structure that's very improvised and very much based on what the material wants me to do, rather than me trying to force it to become anything else. It was a real honour to be selected as a FUAM finalist, especially having my work in a new environment and a new gallery. It kind of allows the work to flourish in a completely new environment that's very different from the studios that I've inhabited for 4 years at university. Now it's in a completely new space, which is really exciting, and I'm really happy and pleased that FUAM selected me as one of their finalists. Being a part of the Leeds University Studios has been a really amazing part of my life. I think the community and the group of friends that I've built in those spaces, including the technicians and all the tutors, have been just something that I will always remember and always cherish. It's been, yeah, a really amazing 4 years here. After lots of hard work, I think the one thing that I'm actually really excited for is seeing how my practice can exist outside of the university domain and kind of see how it can flourish in new spaces and new environments around new people. Yeah, I think that's what I'm most excited for, really.